Hello and welcome. Another Thursday edition of the Coach's Corner. Each and every Thursday, Coach Serrano and myself take a few minutes to visit with college coaches from across the country, all levels, all divisions, and we try to get an idea of not only the school and the campus life, but also an idea of the recruiting dynamic and obviously the conference that school plays in. Today, we are joined by Coach Tyler. Is it Rost?
Yep, Ross.
Tyler Rost. I want to make sure I pronounce that right. And Tyler is the hitting and recruiting coordinator at Northwestern University, located in Chicago. Tyler, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
You're very welcome. And, I would first like to kind of get parents and those student athletes. We start talking about baseball conferences. Oftentimes, we neglect to include the Big Ten, but one might say that they are now part of arguably the Big Three or the Big Four, with regard to the UCLA, USC, Washington, Coach Eddie Smith, and Oregon, Coach Waz now joining the Big Ten. So talk a little bit about, I know you've been there as a staff for a year, but talk about the Big Ten as a now powerful baseball conference.
Yeah, I think you've got to consider it right up there with the top conferences. It's nationwide now. You've got schools on the East Coast, you've got schools on the West Coast, so you have all different styles of baseball. And I think what you're going to see with the Big Ten is you're going to see the Big Ten start to creep into that 5, 6, 7, 8 schools every year making the tournament. It's going to be a really talented conference. You're going to have high draft picks come from it every year, and just the depth and the quality of teams in the conference. I think recruiting landscape, recruiting rules. I think a lot of those things that have come down in the last 6 months to a year really help out the Big Ten as well. And so I think the Big Ten has really elevated itself to a point where it's really going to compete with the SEC and the ACC. And you're going to have teams from the Big Ten that they go to super regionals and to the World Series consistently.
Yeah, wasn't it? I think it might have been 4 years ago, 3 years ago. Michigan, Vanderbilt. That was a really good College World Series. Parents may not be familiar. Northwestern, located in Greater Chicago, and really is one of arguably the top 10 academic schools in the world. Talk a little bit about what makes the Northwestern experience such an incredible opportunity for a potential student athlete.
It's awesome. Obviously the brand and the academic side of it is what a lot of people know the school as. It's like you said, top 10 academic institution everywhere. It's the degree you're going to get from Northwestern sets you up for life after baseball. And obviously we hope that's after a 10-year big league career. But whenever that happens, the connections you make, the relationships you have, the degree and the knowledge and, all the stuff that comes with the community of Northwestern, you've got in your back pocket and really sets you up for anything that you could want to do all over the world. Located in Evanston, Illinois, right on the lake. When you think of Chicago, you don't necessarily think of beaches, but we have multiple beaches on campus. It's beautiful here in the summer and in the early fall and the late spring. And it's sailboats. If you caught any of the Northwestern football game, you saw a bunch of sailboats that were kind of up on the lake at the new football venue. It's an institution that is known for academics, but the amount of money and investment that they put in athletics over the last few years, and with the hiring of Mark Jackson as the new athletic director this week, I think Northwestern is on the upward trajectory in athletics too. We've got an $850 million football stadium that's in the process of being built. And, I think what the basketball team and Coach Collins has done making the tournament the last few years has been really good as well.
When we start talking about all these potential rule changes coming forward with regard to roster caps and potential with scholarship changes, it really shouldn't affect a school like Northwestern. You're kind of in that arena where you only saddle up the horses you're going to ride. So it's not as if your program has to do any substantial cutting necessarily. But where do you stand with regard to your recruiting, not only for the 25 year and the 26 year as well?
Yeah, so we're fortunate that the roster limitations were kind of already there anyway. So didn't have to cut anybody. We're still actively recruiting the 25 class. You kind of always keep some spots open in case somebody pops late. You know, you never feel like you really finish a class. But for us, we're still looking for 1 to 2 guys in that class, and we're really excited about the 8 guys we have in it right now. And then with 26s, for us, building the relationship with kids is huge. Like we didn't want to rush into anything. We don't want to be a place that guys come for 1 year and then transfer out because it's not a fit. So for us, it was, call as many guys as we can early in August, and then let's set up visits with those guys and really invest in the relationship and make sure that, before we put an offer out and before we get a commit, like it's the right fit. We've done our due diligence on the kid, and the kid really wants to come to school here as well. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're wide open in the 26. We've got a couple offers out there, but we're looking for probably a smaller class, just like in the 25. And we're super excited about the guys who, we've been able to progress with so far.
Would it be appropriate to say that college baseball recruiting now is kind of making sure that the fit is a two-way connection and kind of a slower process than it may have been a few years ago?
I think so. I think it should be. I think you always hear about transactional and transformational, and I think that's huge right now, where some schools are going to position themselves to be a 1 year place. And if kids want to transfer out afterwards, that's fine. And, maybe that model works for some places. For us, it's like, we don't want to have to recruit an entire roster every year. So we want guys that are here for 3 years and get drafted, or for here 4 years and get their degree, and really build that relationship. And I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of coaches. They're a lot slower to put offers out there because they know the roster sizes are smaller. They want to make sure they get it right. And I think, with scholarship dollars being kind of increased, no one really knows how much they're going to get or when that's going to come down. But I think money has become less of an issue, and it's more about roster spots now. It's more about, is this guy, does he fit into the plans right away as a freshman, or whenever he transfers in? And if he doesn't, then we can probably go get somebody who can.
I want to talk to you specifically about, as someone that is very involved and engaged with hitters, we get lost in metrics and theories and things like that. When you're getting a high school athlete that's still physically developing, how do you begin to get them to become, a part of that Northwestern program, and maybe, learn a little bit differently or at a different pace? How do you take the instructors, the travel, the high school, and you take that hitter and prepare them to become a college hitter?
I think a lot of it's building a relationship with the kid, his junior and senior year in high school, and understanding his background, understanding what he's doing with his hitting coaches, with his high school coach, and not shying away from that, but buying into it and being like, yeah, I love that you have a hitting guy. I love that your high school coach works with you. Like, I'd love to pick their brains and love to, develop you alongside those guys, and not creating friction there. I think that's the first part. And then I think it's like guiding that athlete to the next level. I think at the college level, approach is one of the biggest things that has to change from the high school level. At the high school level, you're going to face good arms, but the depth of arms that you're going to see at the college level, the amount of stuff that you're going to see, I think the approach really has to change when you get here. So we do mechanical stuff in the fall for sure, but a lot of the fall with those young high school kids is like, okay, this is how you need to attack this arm, based on your strengths and your skill set, and based on what he's going to try to do on the mound. This is how you need to formulate a plan. And I think educating those guys on having a plan, how to create that plan before you go to the plate is really big, and not just having guys go to the plate and relying on a good swing or elite athleticism that they could get away with in high school.
Can you talk a little bit about the mental side of hitting? I get a lot of times when I'm interacting with parents, we're talking about, whether it's tee work, front toss, we're talking about the physical, but we really don't spend enough time to talk and discuss that mental approach, the ability to flush or the ability to process what the pitcher and catcher are trying to do. Can you talk about what makes a good college and ultimately a professional hitter as far as from the mental perspective is concerned?
Yeah, I think the mental part's huge. And you have to you're always walking that fine line of, data, failure, all of that stuff being in their brains at the same time, having a plan. But then at the end of the day, it's like it's hitter versus pitcher. It's compete, and you got to be able to stay in the moment and do it. And I think we try to structure drills where they have a certain success rate. You want guys to experience failure. You want them to be able to learn how to deal with that and get over the hump. And, you also want guys to have to deal with success and know what that's like too. So we try to structure it a lot in our drill work and in practices in the fall, giving guys different levels of success and different levels of failure. And then I think like when you see reactions, when you see body language, when you see facial expressions that aren't what you're looking for, you can tell it's taking the hitter out of the moment, then I think it's in that moment, I think it's important to stop practice or stop the drill and say, hey, listen, like, this is what I see. I think it's taking you out of what you want to be or what you want to do. And you never want to build robots. You want guys to be able to express themselves. But I think guys start to figure out that, like, hey, if I can stay more even keel, especially in the box, especially between pitches, it really helps you relax. It really helps you make decisions as a hitter. And, when it comes down to it, making decisions is basically, a huge part of hitting. That's what hitting is just making informed decisions and having a plan. And when guys start to realize that if they're thinking about how they should have hit the last pitch or they're feeling sorry for themselves, then it really takes away from that ability to make informed decisions and in a clear headspace. And so we stress it a lot. And I think putting pressure on guys in everything they do kind of helps build that just awareness. It helps build that mental fortitude of those guys that can bounce back. So when the weight room stuff is hard, when the catch play is hard, when team defense is hard, when scrimmages are hard, I think all of that stuff kind of combines to build mental toughness that you have to have as a hitter if you're going to be successful at the college level.
A lot of families or student athletes will always say, geez, I don't know if I'm a Northwestern caliber student. What does it take, in your opinion, to become get in your radar, get on the Northwestern University radar as far as an overall recruit? Obviously, skill set is part of that. But what does it take for you as a staff to clearly begin to become active from the follow phase to the active recruiting phase for a student athlete?
On the academic side, we're test optional, so you don't have to have a really high SAT or ACT score. GPA wise, there's not a set GPA. The biggest thing for Northwestern and our admissions department is that they want to see kids are really challenging themselves in the classroom. And so usually it's a mix of AP classes, some honors classes. If your GPA is in the twos, we're probably not going to have a conversation, but you don't have to have all A+ to get in here. They want to see that kids are trying hard, challenging themselves, really pushing themselves in the classroom. And then I think on the baseball side, we want really good athletes. We sat down as a staff last fall when we got here and said, okay, like what do we do well? And we think the Northwestern facilities that we have are phenomenal. Our athletic trainer is awesome. Our strength coach is awesome. The amount of stuff we do on the nutrition side in terms of not only, providing meals and food and snacks, but also blood work and DEXA scans. We think we can really develop the baseball side and develop the physical side. So we really look for good athletes with things that you can't coach and you can't teach. I've never seen in my 13 years of college baseball, I've never seen a guy go from a 7.260 to a 6.4. You can make marginal gains there, but taking those guys with elite athletic attributes and bringing those guys in, that's what really pops. And if you asked Coach Greenspan what's his biggest thing is you have to be able to play catch. He said that from day one last fall was as a defense, as a team, if there's one thing we're going to be known for, it's being able to catch and throw the baseball. And, we were fortunate to have a pretty good defense last year that allowed us to win some games. And I think that's one of the biggest things that stands out is whatever position you play, do you have the ability to be elite defensively?
So, when you look around I always tell parents, wasn't that long ago that Vanderbilt was not really a baseball school. Duke wasn't really a baseball school. Stanford in the 80s really kind of stood out to me, Miami. When you start talking to parents, do you stress the importance, specifically as a recruiting coordinator, it is a wonderful opportunity to trade athletic ability for academic excellence, and there has to be a balance, and so college is about, everything, the social, the academic, the athletic. But when you're recruiting, I noticed you have Harvard Westlake in California. You also have Phillips Andover, Phillips Exeter in Massachusetts. So you're East Coast to West Coast. So when you're recruiting, it's obviously not just in one section of the country. When you're recruiting, do you stress that Northwestern offers a student athlete that kind of that balance of having the best of both worlds, not only for your current situation, but obviously for their futures?
Yeah, 100%. We want baseball guys first and foremost, but if you just didn't talk about the academic piece of the school, you'd be doing a disservice to what Northwestern is and the brand of Northwestern. And it's an opportunity to live in both worlds. Like you said, if you talk Power Five athletics with top 10 academics, it's us, Duke, and Stanford, and that's a big part of who we are. And at the end of the day, you have to be really good at baseball to play here, but we don't shy away from the fact that that degree is going to set you up for life after baseball. And the the amount of learning and the amount of high level thinkers, and like you said, the diversity of the student body population here is an awesome opportunity to just get to know and immerse yourself with people from different cultures and backgrounds that you'd never have the opportunity to do so otherwise. And just like the brand of Northwestern is worldwide, and you literally have students from all over the world in your classes next to you teaching classes, and so it's definitely an awesome opportunity for guys, and a big selling point on the recruiting side.
This is a hot topic, and I've been getting asked this quite a bit recently. What does the role of social media play with regard to recruiting? Specifically for you as a coach, obviously you as part of a staff, but are you monitoring social media? Are you looking at videos posted on social media? How do you as a staff at Northwestern utilize social media with regard to talent acquisition, recruiting, and obviously monitoring the behavior of potential student athletes?
I think it's a little bit of everything. There are definitely times where I'm on Twitter looking at highlight videos, or a kid follows me on Twitter and sends me a DM, and I check it out. I think from that standpoint, it definitely happens, and it probably happens every day. We're on Twitter a lot, just looking for information on kids, looking for 60 times, arm velos, all of that stuff, looking for phone numbers, looking for high schools, all of that stuff, we get from social media just because it's easy access. And the easiest way to do a quick eval on a kid is to just click on a video. And so I think the best way, if you're going to send an email to a coach, especially maybe it's just our staff, but for us, is include a link to your Twitter and just load your Twitter up with videos. That's an easy way for us to just say, hey, is this a guy we want to pursue or not pursue? And I think like the quickness of social media, obviously it has its downfalls, and it gets a bad rap sometimes, but I think it's definitely an easy way for us to take a quick look at a kid. And I think from the behavior monitoring standpoint, we don't do a ton of that. We're never out looking for that. If it's something that we happen to see, it might turn us off, but it's not something that we're actively looking for as a staff. It's more so like, hey, is this kid going to be a fit here? Athletically, does he have a GPA in his bio? Does he have a phone number? That sort of thing.
As Coach Rost is explaining, one of the integral parts of the new baseball Blue Book app is having the ability to look up all the social media accounts so that you're able to direct message, you're able to load your videos, interact via DMs and so forth. So go ahead and make sure you download that Baseball Blue Book app in the Google and Apple stores, and make sure you're loading your videos onto the Blue Book so coaches can have access to your video and also be able to find and learn your social media handles. Tyler, my last question is, how do you prefer to hear from student athletes? Is it the high school coach that you'd like to get a contact first? Is it the family, the student athlete directly? How do you prefer to begin your interaction with a potential student athlete?
For us, it's high school coach if we have a relationship with him, or directly from the student athlete. I think it's a little bit of a turnoff if you have a mom or dad sending an email. It just kind of sent. It might be innocent and it might be nothing wrong with it, but in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, why can't the kid send the email himself? So hearing directly from the student athlete, it is the best. And if we have a relationship with the high school coach, that always helps too. It brings some validity to it, and we get lots of emails and DMs and calls and texts every day. So if you have someone that can advocate on your behalf, that really helps. But I think hearing directly from the student athlete, it shows one, a sense of, hey, I'm taking the time to send this email or send this text or this direct message. And, that's every sort of second you take is an investment in, hey, I'm really serious about this. And so I think hearing directly from him is big. And then, you also get a sense of, can he articulate an email? In Northwestern, that's big. If you have spelling and grammatical errors in your email, that's going to be a turnoff. But I think hearing directly from the student athlete, you're the one that we're going to spend time with. You're the one that we want to develop a relationship with. So doing that as quick as we can in the process is big.
Last question. I fibbed a little bit there. Camps. Do you want your student athletes, and what time of year do you stress that if you would like to get on your radar? Is it the fall camps? Is it the summer camps? How do you feel about recruiting in camps? Do they have a connection at Northwestern?
Recruiting through camps is one of our biggest avenues. And we've committed 12 high school kids since we got here last fall. 8 of those guys came to prospect camps. So for us, they're huge. And we don't do it just where you come in, you take some swings, you take some ground balls, and get out. We try to make it like a mini visit and give you a full Northwestern experience. So, you're going to come in, you're going to meet everyone on staff, you're going to meet the athletic trainer, you're going to meet our strength coach, you're going to meet ops guy, player development, student managers. We want student athletes to feel good about committing to Northwestern after they come to a camp. That's kind of our goal. Obviously, we're only going to make certain offers once guys leave camp, and we can't offer everybody, but our hope is that once kids leave camp, they have a good enough feel for campus, a good enough feel from our staff, that if we were to make an offer, they'd feel comfortable committing. And so our camps are a huge part of the recruiting process. I think especially, some of it depends on where kids are at in the recruiting process and their timelines, but our summer and fall and winter camps, when we're not in season, those camps are huge because we're constantly either trying to see kids that we can't talk to yet, or we're trying to actively recruit and put offers out, depending on what class those guys are in.
And if you're looking for camp information, that's also something that will be available in the Blue Book app, not only for Northwestern, but schools across the Big Ten and across the country. Tyler, I want to say thank you very, very much. I love the Northwestern program. I love the fact that it's an extremely great opportunity, both academically as well as athletically. And I encourage parents and student athletes, include schools such as Northwestern into your, as you're doing an analysis and you're kind of creating your lists. The Big Ten is definitely becoming, or has always been, but now with the addition of the 4 schools from the West Coast, formerly of the Pac-12, you're going to see the Big Ten baseball as a conference really take a quantum leap with regard to their role within not only the regionals, the super regionals, but Omaha as well. And Tyler, I wish you the best of luck going forward. And if there's anything I can ever do, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a blast.
And parents, I want to let you know I'm going to have all of Coach's information down below in the description, as well as the emails to reach all of the staff members with Northwestern University Baseball. And until next week, have a great week in baseball.